Alright guys, so for today what I'm going to show you is how to use hammer and dolly to pop out some dents with body lines involved. It might be hard to see, and I'll bring you guys a little bit in closer, but this is the fender we took off with a Subaru, and it was hit off the driver's side pretty good. So you can kind of see this large swooping body line here, and it should continue all the way through, but we kind of lose it in this area here. So we'll have to bring that back. There's also a subtle body line. You can kind of see it with the difference in shadow. There's a different body line right here, and it's more subtle. And you start to lose it about right here. And it almost completely goes away, and it should kind of taper into the fender as well. You can also probably see a couple of low spots, a couple of high spots, but I'll show you kind of how to attack this, being that there's body lines in it. Before we get there though, I want to show you a few subtle differences between fixing the dent on the Model A that we did on Tuesday of last week to fixing the fender now.
Alright, so the first thing you guys might notice is that obviously this fender is not on the car. Two reasons. Well, one, we took it off together for class, and two, it's hard to get underneath, there I am, underneath to the back side of this panel if it's on the car. So we want to mount it to a stand like this, but we don't want it to be all loosey-goosey on there, because if that happens, then while you're hammering, the fender's going to fall off and you can actually create some more issues. So what I did was, you want as much of this fender to contact this stand as possible. So I'll show you the back side. On the back side of a fender, there's this lip, and this lip is where it holds bolts underneath the hood area. This is an awesome area to clamp to because, well, one, it's not externally, you can't see it from the outside. So if we, booger up this seam a little bit, it's not going to cause a bunch of surface distortion. The other thing is that it's fairly flat. So I've got a clamp on that side, and I've got a clamp on that side. That's holding the fender to the stand, and you can see that all along that edge, it's contacting the stand. So there's a pretty good surface area. The other area that it's contacting the stand is right there at the bottom. Now I don't have a clamp there, but that's going to be okay. And what that's going to allow me to do is put a little body weight into the panel while I'm working on it to hold it to the stand. Now I'll kind of bring you in a little bit closer and try to use some light to show you this damage. So if you follow that light above me as we're going across the panel, you can see that it starts to get all kinds of distorted and strange as we go over this damaged area. You can also see that subtle small body line right over the wheel arch. And we kind of lose it through the middle where that dent is, and then there's a big dent there in the front. And then that large body line, you can kind of see that it's pretty good all the way from the back of the, like where the driver sits, all the way up until the front here, where we've got some chipped off paint and some things like that. If I keep going forward, you can actually see we've got a decent sized crease and a decent sized dent in the front. The transitions, the transitions here should be a lot more subtle, and the front of this panel is pretty messed up. So we're gonna see what we can do with a hammer and dolly, just trying to work first on this body line. As you go over, you can still see a bunch of highs and lows in the flat surfaces of the panel, but we don't want to address those first because we want to be able to not work on those body lines first. Because again, that's where we hold some structure. A little minor thing is this, where the panel folds under in the wheel arch. There's also a little kind of bow in there that also holds a lot of structure of this panel, so we got to make sure we straighten that as well, or we're not going to be able to work out some of these dents. So the first step that we want to take is we want to clean this panel, and we're just going to do that with some simple glass cleaner and a rag If this was on the car still, we'd probably just give the car just a quick wash and a walk around just to see what other damages we find. But since we're just concerned with this panel, we'll just use some glass cleaner and a rag and wipe off everything so we can get a little clearer look. All right, now that we have our panel kind of cleaned and mounted to the stand, now we want to go ahead and select our hammers and dollies for the job. There's a few that I think that I'm going to use during this, and I'll tell you why. The first one is going to be this long kind of pick hammer right there, the one with the long point on it, and that'll help with the body line. The other one, we have a chisel in the middle here. That one's pretty kind of fat and rounded. What I want to use is this one that's a little bit more crisp. So I'll show you kind of what I mean by that. The reason I'm going to use both is because the small pick hammer doesn't matter the way I hold it in my hand, as long as I'm striking the body line. The other one, obviously, I've got to hold it pretty flat in order to attack the body line I want. Dollies, we're going to kind of interchange these as we go, but I'm mostly going to be using that toe dolly there, the kind of universal one. So, see you back at the pan.
All right, so I forgot to hit record. I've been working on this a little bit. I sprayed it down and cleaned it, and then I've been working on getting this body line out a little bit. I've been using this pick hammer and this dolly to do so. And so I'm just working and trying to focus on this body line. I'll try to put up a before picture like right now, and so you guys can kind of see the difference that it's made. It still has some kind of ripples to it, but the overall shape is coming back where I want it. So what I'm doing now is, if I get out of your guys' light, you can see this low spot right here, and I'm trying to work from the back side to get that out. Now what you got to think about body lines is, although I'm trying to work this out down here, it's also bent up here. So in order for me to get this body line straight, I've got to work both sides of that body line. So I'm going to do a little work up here and a little work down here, and that'll bring everything kind of out. So I'm going to start with a little bit of work hitting from the back down here, and then we'll start to try to remove this big crown up here and get this panel to straighten out a little bit too. So I'd say from about here to here, we're starting to get pretty nice. I'll try and show you in the light. Is it ripply? Yes. But we're getting those dents out, those big dents. Now before we go much further, I'm gonna try to get this dent out and try to focus on getting all the big stuff out. Then I can kind of smooth everything out after that.
All right, I wanted to pick up and bring you guys in here a little bit closer. So you can see that the overall shape, if I can bring this light back over, it's still real ripply, guys, but those big dents are kind of out. It's still pretty ugly up in this area. But if you think about where it was before, you know, this panel actually has some shape to it. So at this point, we're going to want to, like I see I got a pretty big low right here. Work that down. Now it's just a lot of the fine tuning. The fine tuning stuff can be a little time consuming, I'll be honest. So we'll try to iron some of this stuff out, try to make it pretty smooth, and then we actually might think about buzzing some of this paint off. Because you can see, like, you get lost in here a little bit when you get all this paint. And like this body line, I'm not quite sure it's exactly perfect, because I can see it's nice here with the paint, and then the paint chips off and I can't really see much of the body line. If you guys see, try to get it to focus nice, you can see all those little pin marks. That's because of that pick hammer. So that's something we're going to want to correct before we go too far. You can see some there too on that body line. Now, it was necessary to do that so that I was I could target the panel the way that I wanted to. And yes, I know this thing is still fairly ugly, but remember, we had big waves in it before, like big dents, and now we have a bunch of little ripples. So I'm gonna keep ironing it out. I'll probably put you guys on like a fast forward here, so you can kind of see me ironing some of this stuff out. So.